And hundreds of thousands of students across the globe have skipped school to protest against climate change. From Delhi to London, from Germany to Indonesia, students ditched their classes and have taken to the streets, demanding action against climate change. Protests are being held across 150 countries. They are being spearheaded by 16-year-old Swedish activist Greta Thunberg. Pictures on your screen there are from Melbourne. Now, this is just in fact a very small snippet of how massive these protests are. In fact, in Australia, at least 300,000 people attended the global climate strike. Protests were staged across 110 towns and cities. Students called on the government to commit to net zero carbon emission by 2030. Australia, remember, is the world's largest coal and natural gas exporter. School students in New Delhi also joined the protest. They held banners that read, "The oceans are rising and so are we." Some students were heard shouting, "Be the solution and not the pollution."
I don't think anyone needs a reason to be in this strike right now. This is for your future, this is for your existence, and this is for your life. If you're not here, you're wasting your time wherever you are in the world right now.
In the UK, students organised protests across cities and towns. Demonstrators were in fact held protests in London, Cardiff, Edinburgh, Brighton, Newcastle and Birmingham. Classrooms were also empty. In the Czech Republic, students held demonstrations demanding changes in the climate policy.
You know, the future, if we will study and do nothing with climate crisis, we will study for nothing because everything will be destroyed by climate crisis.
Indonesia, which is currently battling forest fires, also saw student protests. The protesters urged the government to take immediate action against environmental degradation. There were also protests in neighboring Thailand and the Philippines. In Kenya, students gathered in Nairobi's Uhuru Park. They held banners reading "All in for climate action." Students called for programs around clean energy and safe water. Africa is believed to be the continent which will suffer the fallout of climate change the most. The governments have already asked for help from the international community. These images are from Germany. Berlin's Brandenburg Gate saw its largest gathering. Climate activists stood between the gallows on blocks of ice. They had nooses around their neck. This was to show that time for action is running out. The messages from all of these demonstrators is loud and very clear. We do not have time. It's the beginning of the climate protest. Demonstrations will continue across countries till the 27th of September. All eyes are now on the UNGA, where the issue of climate change will be on the list of almost every leader's priority. Now, an ecological disaster has come to light in North America. The continent's birds are in danger. Their population has fallen by 29% in less than 50 years. In fact, these are only some of the big numbers, and an ever bigger message. Here's more on that.
It's It's an environmental disaster in North America. Nearly 3 billion birds disappeared in less than 50 years. Between the years 1970 and 2017, the continent has lost 29% of its bird population, a catastrophic number. Some conservationists are calling it dizzying. But not all experts are surprised. The trends pretty much hinted at this, they say. 90% of the lost birds are from just 12 feather families. These include popular birds like swallows, warblers and finches. Grassland birds have been the worst affected, sparrows and meadowlarks for example. According to data, their numbers have fallen by over 720 million. 53% of the population has been wiped out. North America's forests have lost over 1 billion birds. The data for coasks lamentable again. The continent lost 37% of its shorebird population. The non-native flock decreased by 63%. These numbers are massive. Their ramifications even bigger. This loss of bird population will take a toll on North American forests. There will also be an increase in the number of pests. Pollination of flowers will take a toll. Natural dispersal of seeds will decline, and so will the food for other species. In short, the ecosystem as a whole will suffer. We humans will feel the pain too. And why shouldn't we? This disaster is, after all, a man-made one. How, you ask? Chaotic urbanization, endless pollution, unchecked pesticide use, and the insatiable expansion of agricultural land. These are just some of the many culprits. What's done cannot be undone, but there are things we can do to avoid a repeat of such a disaster. For starters, choosing environment-friendly products or planting more trees will be a step significant enough. The numbers today may be from just one continent, but this by no way gives a clean sheet to the other 6. These telling data come just days ahead of the big climate talk at the United Nations. Either we join hands to save the planet, or we prepare ourselves for emptier skies and silent springs. Bureau Report, WION, World is One.